Hi, I'm Josh. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for letting me speak at your meeting. And thanks to my homie Scott for volunteering me without letting me know. I'd like just to take a second and invite my higher power into the room, and if you got one or you don't, just take a moment of silence just to kind of all right, that's enough. I couldn't drink or do drugs like a gentleman, and I couldn't drink or do your drugs like a gentleman. And I'd wake up and think I wasn't going to use that day or drink that day, and I'd find myself at 11 in the morning with a joint in my mouth and a 40 in my hand, going, "How did this happen?" And that was what it was like before, what it was like. And in '91 was my first OD, and I went into the hospital, and it was on purpose. And after a lot of stints in institutions in the hospital, I used to say, "I'm just depressed," and they'd say, "Well, maybe you want to take a look at your alcohol, maybe the fact that you're using heroin, or some of these other things." And I'd say, "No, I'm just depressed." And it was my way of getting some vacation time, and trying to just clear my head, I would say. And every 6 months, I'd come up to the same block, the same brick wall, and go, "How did that happen?" And one day, about 3.5 years ago, I woke up. I was selling cars for about 2 weeks. I was on the outs with my girl at the time, and I woke up and I was done. So nothing really big happened that day. Nothing really, I wasn't selling my body for crack that day. I wasn't doing anything crazy that day. I just woke up and I was done. And I called somebody up and I said, "Can you take me to one of those meetings?" And when he did, I got to this meeting and I felt this concrete lifted off my shoulder, and I just felt relieved. And I didn't know why, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something. And soon after that, I found my home group, the Solutions Group Men's Stag, friends like Scott and some other men too that would be willing to show me the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they never told me what to do. They never said, "If you don't do this, man, your ass is going to fall off." They never said anything like that to me. They just said, "This is how I did it. If you want it, you got it. If you don't, peace." That's what they said. And I appreciated the fact that they weren't giving me direction. They'd give me some very loving suggestions. And a man came up to me at that meeting and said, "Josh, if you don't want to feel this way ever again, you don't have to." And 98% of me said, "Fuck off." And 2% of me said, "Maybe this guy is right." And that 2% kept me coming back long enough to hear the message of Alcoholics Anonymous and long enough to start clearing the cobwebs. I just remember my first year, I was just buzzing off the walls, man. Everything just buzzing off the walls. And a guy said to me, he said, "Josh," he said, "you've been doing drugs and drinking alcohol for, 13 years straight. Your body just physically is freaking out, man. Let alone, what's going on in your head. Your body is just like, where's my shit?" And that helped. That helped a lot. And what I had to do was I had to admit that I was an alcoholic. And at first I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because I like to smoke pot, and I like to shoot drugs, and I like to dabble in other things. So it wasn't always, it wasn't the case that I was drinking on Sunday, because I was normal. Everyone does that. And that's what I thought, So I had to change the word alcohol or alcoholic in the book when I read it to obsessive mindfucker. So when I would read it, I'd say obsessive mindfucker, instead of alcoholic. And that kind of helped me get through reading it, because at first I couldn't do that. And the whole 2 years prior to getting sober, man, I was not getting high anymore. I was slamming that 8-ball and I wasn't getting high anymore. I was drinking and I wasn't getting drunk anymore. It just was part of my identity. It was part of who I was. It was like having an extra arm. It was just part of who I was. It was part of how it was. All my friendships were based around it. All my relationships were based around it. Everything I knew had to do with alcohol and drugs in some way or another. It had to do with the hustle. I'd wake up and it was just the hustle was on again. How was I going to hustle today? How was I going to get high today? And it wasn't even conscious anymore. It was just part of who I was. And when I finally admitted that I was powerless over alcohol and that my life was unmanageable, a little tiny door opened up, and I had an opportunity to start getting real. And it's. I just want to tell you, if you're new, man, it's been a really good ride. And if you would have told me 3.5 years ago that I'd be standing here on a Sunday night with my buddy Scott telling you about how I'm sober, I would have seriously laughed in your face, made funny, and threw my 40 at you. I would have just been like, yeah, whatever, dude. Okay, and it's just not like that today, and that Josh doesn't exist today, and I'm really grateful for that. And the only way I could do that was to find the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and to find a way to deal with my fears and my resentments and my sexual misconduct and put them down on paper, bring it to another alcoholic, and then get willing to maybe have these things removed, and then asking my higher power. Now my higher power, I didn't have one when I got here. I thought if you got on your knees, you were a bitch, and that was just it, and that was it. And I didn't believe in God, and if there was a God, he was fucking after me, and he wanted a piece, and that was it, and he was just a monkey on my back, and it got to a point where, I was like, I'm willing to do fucking anything not to feel like a piece of shit anymore, and I'm not gonna eat the fucking hollow point, and I entertained that for years, but I had conceded to myself, I'm not gonna eat the fucking hollow point, so I gotta try maybe what you're doing. Maybe I don't know anything, and for even today, when I'm getting a little wacky, I'd look down and identify my feet. I say my shoes are black. The floor is gray, the walls are white with some funky writing on it, and I just try to get into the present and into the now, because if I'm in an hour from now, I'm fucked, and if I'm in from an hour earlier, I'm fucked. That's just how it is for me as an alcoholic. If I'm not in the present, it's on like Donkey Kong. It's just gonna get crazy, and the only way I've learned to do it is through the steps, and finding some kind of way to clear this pipe. Because, left to my own thinking, man, I think some crazy shit. And I sometimes need to bounce that brilliant idea off my friend like Scott or somebody, and bounce, my new brilliant plan or the thought of, and I still today, man, if you're new, I still today, and people might disagree with this, I still today think about using. I still crave, I see in a movie someone shooting up and I'm like, oh, that beer looks so fucking good, and I have the craving. The difference today is that I recognize the craving and I ask God to relieve the obsession, and I'm a little farther since I have learned some of the steps, and I do have the opportunity to talk to other alcoholics. I've gotten a little farther away from actually taking that action. I take a contrary action. Maybe I need to write. Maybe I'm feeling fearful. Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I'm just feeling lonely today, or I'm feeling angry. And I feel lucky to have a way to deal with that today. I just recently had a work situation where I had to get out of the situation, and it was just the situation was done, and the guy I called the guy up and told him, I can't do this anymore. And he just went to town on me. He just ripped into me. Now, 3.5 years ago, all right, let's go. Let's rock this. And I would have you effer. I would have just went off. And something really amazing happened to me where I let the guy just freak out. Because I was right with my God, and I had taken it to another alcoholic, and I did the work before I brought it to this guy, before I brought my decision. I was strapped with God, I was just strapped with God, and I felt like I was, and I let him be angry, and I had a healthy separation, which I didn't know about those. I didn't know what a healthy separation was, that just didn't exist. You know, I'm a small guy, so I just have my friend kick your ass. You know, that was it. That was it. And I had a really healthy separation, and it just floored me that I'm in the bonus round. I should be dead. You know, I should be a fucking ghost right now. I should have died 3.5 years ago. There's no reason, with all the amount of drugs and the crap that I was thinking, that I should be alive today, and it's all due to Alcoholics Anonymous. And the fact that I'm saying that even trips me out a little, you know. But what happened is, you know, I learned a new vocabulary, and I got to redefine myself and find myself through Alcoholics Anonymous. And I get here tonight with you guys, and I get to share this common language. We know what we're talking about, you know. Just like when I was out there, you know, the homies that I used with, we knew what we were talking about. Well, in here, we know what we're talking about, and I take comfort in that today, and feel a little less alone, you know. And I'll tell you, you know, this isn't a fucking pill. You can't fucking smoke this. You can't cook it. It's a gradual. You can't snort it. You can't do anything. You know, it's a gradual. It's like, you know, it's creeper. You know, it's going to creep up on you if you keep working it, And I'm just grateful today. I'm grateful for my life. And if you're new, and if I just sound like wah, 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 welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous, man. You know? It did get better for me. It didn't get better quick enough, you know. The girl didn't stay, you know. Things happen. Life is in session for me today, and it's not a fucking bed of roses. But it sure as hell ain't like the day I walked in here. It just isn't. It just isn't. And could all these people sitting here be lying? I don't know. That would be a pretty crazy hustle. To me, this hustle is better. The odds are better in here. You know, if I had to bet on this, if I had to hustle with this, it's just a better hustle. For me, it's easier and softer, you know? It just is. And I forget about the past. I forget that I'm an alcoholic a lot. And I'm lucky that, you know, I got friends to remind me when I call them up, and I'm like, you know, man, maybe I can go back out there and, you know, smoke a joint, you know, or, you know, drink a bottle of wine, you know, maybe I can do that. And they just start, seriously, they laugh on the other end of the phone. They just start laughing at me like I'm just an idiot, you know what I mean? They're just like, ah. They go, try it. You know? And something that they say to me, they say, you know, if you want to go through hell, go for it. Been there, done that. You want to get sober and have a better life, then I'll help you out. That's what they say. You know, and they also say if you're going through hell, don't stop. And I used to pitch a tent, you know. Again, without the 10-step, I mean, without all the steps, you know, they're all just a platform to the 12, to hopefully, if I can give something away, if my higher power can speak through me. And I don't know who God is, you know, I don't know what it is or who it is, but if he can just speak through me for a second and share the message and let you know that, you know, it works. It fucking works. Thanks.